You have any smart people in this room? There you go. That's right. Yeah, raise those hands. I think most of you, we've done tripped, we fell, we gotten up. But I want you to listen to the other half of what he said. He said a wise person finds a smart person and tries to avoid the mistake altogether. And that's why I'm here today. I'm hoping that I can teach you some of the mistakes I made so that you don't make it. And one of the areas that I think all of us, I don't want to say we love, but we really like money. Anybody here like money? I didn't say love money. Like money. I like money. You were talking about it earlier. But what I'm here is to teach you the mistakes I've made, hoping that you won't make them also. Anytime I do a presentation, I have one goal in mind. And that particular goal is to incite change, to influence some type of change. And for today's presentation, I'm hoping that I can influence you in some type of change as it relates to money management, all right? But you also have a job. You also have a goal. I want you to think about what is the change that you want in your life as it relates to this. So the information I give you, the things I'm going to be teaching you, you're going to have to ask yourself, what is the change that I want to make with the stuff that I am presenting to you? Does that make sense? Is that okay? Can we agree on that? All right, I like it. I like it. So as we go through this journey, just continue to ask yourself that question, and what will happen is, in your head, you'll start to build a system that'll start to create something that will walk towards the action of making that change. So it's no longer the thought. It's something that will happen. Well, my name is, in here somewhere, Alexis Beltre. My name is Alexis Beltre, and for the last 15 years, I've been teaching financial literacy. All right, and I grew up in the South Bronx in a single-parent household with 4 siblings. So things were tight often. But the one thing I could tell you is that I remember clearly my mom budgeted her way out of poverty. So that's why when I heard a quote from a gentleman named Dave Ramsey, he said, most people, they don't have money problems. What they have is money management problems. So most people don't have a problem getting money. They can get a job, they can find money. What they have a problem is actually managing the money that they actually have. So that really stuck with me because I remember my mom, all she did was budgeted her way out of poverty. All right, we didn't have the fancy things, but we had the things that we needed. So throughout today, I'll be teaching you some things. I do live in Buffalo now, so go Bills. This is our year. It's our year. How long? How long have we been saying this? This is our year. I hope. I don't think I can deal with another emotional roller coaster. And I went to Niagara University. That's how I came out here to the Western New York area. I went to Niagara University and I graduated with my accounting degree. So me and numbers, we've been cool for some time. So I absolutely love numbers, which is what brings me to financial literacy. So what exactly is financial literacy? All right, so one thing I will say, caveat, I had some notes, but I think I'm good. But hopefully I can get everything that I have for you. But here we go. What is exactly financial literacy? When you think about the term financial literacy, it's about understanding how money impacts you. How does it impact you? So whether you buy something, whether you save it, whether you invest it, how does money impact you directly? And that's what financial literacy all about. It's about trying to figure out how your cash actually flows. Try to understand that concept. Now, I have a couple of norms. I see you have a couple of them here. I also have some norms for this particular class. So hold on to these as we go throughout this session. So my particular norm, I want this learning experience, at least for the next 2 hours, to be a safe and shared learning experience and environment. So what do I mean by that? So when I talk about safe learning environment, all answers are welcome, even the wrong ones. I know people say there aren't any wrong answers. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there are wrong answers, but that's okay. Tell them to me. Just speak them out. Say them. It's okay. That's how we learn. Also, throughout this session, I want you involved. I want you participating. I have some activities for you to get involved with. I'm going to be asking you questions. I don't want to be the only one talking. So I'm going to be asking questions, and if I see you not giving me eye contact, those are the people I like to ask questions. but I want this to be a conversation as we go through with this. Are those norms okay? All right, cool. So we talked about financial literacy and this thought process of how cash flows. And that's what we're going to talk about today. What is this concept of cash flow and how do we understand it better? So let's dive into one particular concept. As we think about this term cash flow and learning about it, the idea is to control your money. So for a moment, I'm about to get on a soapbox. I'm about to get a little preachy, but hang out with me because I got something to tell you. So it's about controlling your money. Because if you don't control your money, if you don't learn how to tell it what to do, someone else is. Now in your mind, you're like, ain't nobody telling me what to do with my money. I'm about to make this money, ain't nobody telling me. But I'm gonna give you some stats to show you something. Because there are a lot of individuals that are after your money. Now, growing up, I grew up around thieves. I'm not talking about those types of thieves. A little different kind. Let me give you some stats. All right. So most companies spend about 5 to 12% of their sales, that's the money they make from selling products, on advertising. Anybody know what advertising is? It's how they try to convince you to buy their products. 5 to 12%. All right, doesn't seem like much, right? All right, let's talk about Nike. Everybody know who Nike is, right? I used to call it Nike. Yes, this is no. Everybody know who Nike is, right? Nike. I like calling them Nikes. Potato, ladies and gentlemen. Nike. They make sneakers, they make clothes, they make a lot of things. Yes, sir? All right, we're good. We're back. All right, a couple of years ago, Nike made $12 billion in sales. So that's what they made in sales, $12 billion in the products that they sold you. Let's say 5% of that they spent on advertising. That's $600 million they spent trying to convince you to buy their product. All right, usually I got a couple of eyebrows here. Want to know what they actually spent? $3.5 billion in advertising to try to convince you to buy their product. All right, a couple of eyebrows. Works. Want to know what Amazon spent? $6.5 billion trying to convince you to buy their product. It's crazy to me. I'm in the wrong business. There's a lot of money sitting on the table. But the idea behind that is that they spent all this money. Now, Nike been on the block for a few years. Amazon just got on the scene. But neither one of these companies are stupid. They wouldn't spend that much money unless it worked. And as you were saying, it does. It works. Where do you think they spend most of this money? Where's the vehicle? Is it on TV, radio? How are they trying to get their message across or spend this advertising? What do you think? What was that? Internet, yeah? Social media, absolutely. And do you know that they don't just spend it on putting a message out there? Yeah.
They also have people wear their stuff. And,
Great way. So that you see it. Oh, I like how that person looks. I want to buy that. But not only do they send a message out there, they buy your information. Not specifically, but like on social media, what they buy is how often are you a particular website? What are you searching? When you stare at something on your social media, that's information that they get and how they learn about you. So when you Google those AirPods and then you started to notice AirPods are showing up everywhere, you're like, oh, that's convenient. So I won't forget. A little scary too, isn't it? But it's also dangerous. And this is why I'm bringing this piece up. Because it's dangerous if you don't fully understand how to control your money. Because psychologically, while in person, if I came up to any of you, or if anybody came up to you and said, I'm going to go in your pockets, are you going to let me? Absolutely not. I'm going to punch in my face or something. But psychologically, we let it happen all the time without us realizing. But this is what I'm going to teach you on ways for you to kind of challenge that. And that's how you're going to learn about controlling your money. So what are we going to be covering today? There we go. So a couple of ways we're going to learn about this controlling your money. Understanding cash flow. We're going to be talking about budgeting, right? My hope today is that by the end of today, you'll be able to understand your cash flow by understanding how to budget. In addition, we're going to talk about the ins and out of this paycheck that may be new to some of you. Also, we're going to talk about where it is you should store your money or places you should store your money that'll give you the fastest access to your money. And lastly, I'm going to open up a safe space for you to ask questions and get involved. And again, you can ask questions throughout this entire session as you've been doing. Raise your hands, and we'll be able to do that. So before we dive in, let me ask you a question. As most of you are going to be starting to work soon, why is it that we earn money? Why is it that we go out and exchange our time to get money back? We're going to go here, and then we're going to go here. Yes, sir. Life is free. Absolutely. You have responsibilities.
It's just how the world works.
That's how the world works, yeah. What was that? Use your outside voice. Let me hear you. That's right. And I say that, no joking. I'm soft spoken. So a lot of times, a lot of my mentors say, I need you to use your outside voice because I can't hear you. But you said it. Why do we earn money? To spend it. And I'm going to tell you something that most people won't. That's okay. It's okay to spend money. I might get in trouble for this one, but it's okay to spend money. A lot of times we hear, don't spend your money, this, that, do this. It's okay to spend money. What's important is to understand how we spend it. How is it that we absolutely spend it? And that's what we're going to be diving in today. We're going to be talking about how exactly we spend it. Because when we think about budget, right? Me and you, we're not friends right now. We're thinking about budget. This is the idea that we're going to talk about. In a moment, we're going to dive into an exercise and learn what it is to actually budget. We're going to talk about budget a little bit, and we think about this concept. When you hear the term, at least for adults, maybe it's just me, we hear that word budget, we cringe. Because when we hear the word budget, it means I can't do something. You want me to budget my money? That means I can't do something. But the budgeting piece is really easy. All budgeting is recording what it is you do financially. What is the in, the money coming in? What is the money coming out? That's all budgeting is. It's the recording part of your finances. How do you record it? In recording, you can do a couple of things. You can look in the past. You can see what exactly happened. I don't know for any of you, if you received money and Friday comes around, have a blast throughout the weekend, and Monday comes around, what exactly happens? Oh my goodness, I have no idea, one, where my money went, two, what happened to it, right? Have you ever been in that situation? Come on, adults, you've been there. All right. Well, this is a portion of what budgeting does. It helps you to, I don't want to say stop that. I'm not saying I'm anti-fun. I'm not even saying I'm anti-buying things. I talked about advertising. I talked about Nike. I actually just bought a pair of Air Maxes not long ago. It's, these Peace and Love ones. These things are dope. You saw them. I'm not against that, but it's about doing it in the right manner. And in addition to looking in the past on what happened in budgeting, you can also look forward. You can look in the future. Budgeting gives you a superpower. It helps you look in the future. Well, how is that? It tells you in looking into the future, and we're going to dive into exactly how that happens, but one thing that you do through budgeting is you give each dollar a purpose before it even gets to your pocket. You tell that money where it's going to go before someone else does. And how does that help you by giving each dollar a purpose? Before you buy something, I'll get to you in 1 second. Before you buy something, it forces you to ask two questions. It forces you to ask when you see something, say, do I need this? Or is that just good advertisement telling me I want that? And again, I'm not mad about buying things because the second question you ask yourself, well, if I want this, am I spending money that I placed the purpose on? And we're going to dive into that a little bit in just a moment. Yeah. Okay, you sure? I got you. All right. So that's the idea behind it. When you think about budgeting, it's about recording the information. It tells a story of where you want to go and where you have been as it relates to finances. All right? Well, there's one good way to learn about budgeting, and that's by actually doing it. So what you're going to do is you see our friends here, the Joneses. This is Giovanni and Linda Jones. They came up to you because they said, you know what? These individuals in this class, they're experts at budgeting. They went to see that Mr. Alexis Beltre, and they know what they're doing. So they came to you, and they're asking you to help them build a budget because they want to find out how they're doing financially. Now, this is where I need some of my notes here, but that's okay. We're going to figure this out. There are a couple of things that we're going to help them do. All right. So first, as we talk to them, a couple of things we need to know about. They're a family of 4. They have some kids. They own a house, a number of different things. So what we're going to do is we're going to help them take their financial information, place it on a budget. All right, let's figure this out. All right, so here's the financial information. Because remember, when you're starting a budget, it all starts about what happened. What's going on right now? Where is your money going? So this is what you ask them. So here's some information from them. This is the money that they've earned. This is their salaries. They make X amount of money on a yearly, weekly, and monthly basis. They live in a house. Here's their house expenses. And I think you were talking about it earlier. We have a number of different expenses. Both kids go to private school. And in addition to that, they have some car expenses. And here are their car expenses now. So this begins to tell the story of what they do on a regular basis, all right? And here's some additional expenses that they have. All right, here's where the fun comes in. In a moment, we're going to help them build a budget. And here's what we're going to help them find out. What's their monthly income? What are their total expenses? And what's their net income? Has anybody ever heard the term net income? Yeah. All right, cool. Net income just basically means what's left over after you spend some money. So I'm going to write this down because in a moment, I'm going to ask you for those numbers. Do you have any clean sheets here? Oh, sweet. So what are we looking for? Their monthly income, right? What else we got for them? Their monthly expenses. And lastly, their net income. So don't worry about memorizing this information because it's going to come back to you. So here what you have in front of you is just a general way to record the information, right? You put your name on there. This is how much money they made. And you start jotting down exactly what happened to them in detail. What's the money that they spent, right? And here it is here. I did the work for you, no worries. All right, so now what I'd like you to do is take a moment and help them answer these questions here. This is the easy part of the exercise. So take a moment, study this, and then just raise your hand and tell me when we get to any of these answers. All right, yeah. Let the class hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. 7,187.
Easy peasy, mac and cheesy. 7,167. Very simple, right? So now they know how much they make.
You sure it's not 7,165? Because comparing it to like their how much they make.
Around it.
3,000. Oh, you round.
We'll give it a rounding error. How's that sound?
My fault.
You're good. No, don't apologize. Thank you for catching that. I appreciate it. All right. So what about their monthly expenses? Come on. These are easy. Yeah. Pretty much. That's how much they spend on a monthly basis, right? And what's left over? What's their net income? 1,667. All right. So there's a reason we did this. How often do we go through the month and we don't pause and ask ourselves this number right here? What's left over? Of course, we pay our bills because this is the number that matters. This leftover, this net income. Why does that number matter? Because this is the money you have left over to do all of the other stuff you want to do. Whether it's invest, whether it's save, whether it's to buy things. And we're going to help them do some of that stuff. Because they have a couple of goals. And they have some goals that we're going to help them get to. And here, I'm going to write these down. I had them in my notes, but we're going to write them down. So the couple of things they want to do is, the Jones came to you and they said, we need to buy a new car. And we would like that car to be newer. but we just need that car to be about $400 a month when we buy it, all right? So we first have to help them see if they can afford a car that's $400 a month. The next thing they want to do, they want to be able to put a down payment of $5,000. Does everybody know what a down payment is? Okay, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry? It's okay, tell me, come on.
I think it's like what you put down like first, like your first payment.
Bingo. That's it. Thank you for that. So a down payment simply is when you go in to purchase, let's say, a car, a house, something big usually, it's the first money you put up front. So say the car's $10,000, you want to put $5,000 down, you only have $5,000 left. That's all a down payment is. I say these terms, so as you go out there and you hear them, you're like, oh yeah, I know what a down payment is. I learned about that. So they want to be able to put a down payment of $5,000, all right? So we're going to keep this up here so we don't have to memorize it. This is where we're going to help them do it. And the next thing they want to do is they want to do that in 2 months. So they want to be able to do this in 2 months. So what are we going to do together as a class? We got to find out if they can do that using this information here. We're going to find out. Don't worry. You might be right. But not only are we going to help them find out if they can, we're going to find out if they have any other options. Thank you very much. All right. Before as we go through this, I'm just going to give you some nuggets of things that I learned. Has anybody ever heard the phrase income statement? This is a business term. Has anybody ever heard the phrase income statement? It's okay. Yeah. All right. Businesses and companies use income statements just like people do. You know what an income statement is? Is how much money came in, how much money came out, and what's left over. So as you go into the world of corporate, if you go into the business world and you hear somebody say income statement, in your head you're like, I know exactly what that is. People use it all the time, and what we do in budgeting, the income statement is how we start our budgeting process. Because what does it do? It tells us where we actually are, because we can't know where we're going unless we pause and find out where we are. Does that make sense? Are we okay? We're on board? All right. So let's help the Joneses before shutting them down. Whoever shut them down just a second ago. Let's actually find out what's going on. To do that, let's dive into exactly what is budgeting and how does it support us. I said it earlier, but budgeting is a tool. Budgeting is a tool that helps us plan for future spending. Now, we talked about now, but what budgeting also does, it helps us plan to move forward, to look that way. And we're going to show you that in just a second. In addition to that, it helps you understand where your cash is flowing. Now, I mentioned to that when you hear the word cash flow, that term, all it means is money moving in, money moving out, all right? And then you're able to do that so you can tell it where to go and where to come. So what we're going to do right now, understanding this and learning this, we're going to find out exactly how to help the Joneses. So we saw this information again. We had these questions in front of us. And here's what I want to find out. The first question is, with the information we have here, take a moment, look at it. Can they afford a $400 car payment a month? Yeah, right? They have enough left over, right? So every month, they have enough where if they added $400 to their expenses, they can afford it. What about the next one? Can they make a down payment? Now, do we have enough information here? What other information do we need to really figure this out? All right, let's speak up now so I can hear you. What was that? What's in miscellaneous? Hold on to that. We're going to come back to that. But they want to save $5,000 in 2 months. What do we need to know for them to figure that out? Say that again?
What they could cut back on.
What they can cut back on. We're going to get to that in just a second. What about information for future months? All right? How are we going to figure out what they can do in September if we don't know what's happening in August and September? Yes, sir. Exactly. So here's what they spend in July. We looked at it. We know what's going on in July. They gave it to us. Now, when it comes to budgeting, most of this stuff, can you agree, stays the same? Right? So what do? We just move it to the next month. Now, we talked to the Jones about that miscellaneous line. And they said, well, In August, that miscellaneous line is going to go up a little bit because they have a summer vacation that they like to go on. So here's what budgeting is about. You take a glance at what's happening, and if you want to look into the future, all you do is say, well, this is what normally happens. Let's put it in the next month, right? So now we start taking a look at this. We have one additional month. We just looked in the future of what's happening in August. Now, can they, with 1 month of additional information, can they afford to put a $5,000 down payment? No, actually, they're worse. They're called in something called they're in the red. Just a term. And what that means is that they spent more than they actually made. They spent more than they made. They made somewhere around $7,200. They spent $7,500. Now, luckily for the Jones, they came to you when they did, because when they spoke to you in July, they decided not to blow this money. Because that's what we normally do. This extra money, what's this extra money for? Whatever we want it to be for. And that money never sees the next month. But the Jones listened to you and they said, I'm going to hold on to that because I have a vacation coming up, and they're going to use that savings to cover what they're spending more in that month. Pause here. Is this making sense?
Yes.
We good, right? Well, we still need a little more information, right? We need to see what happens in September. Let's take a look at September. And let's pause here and take a look at and see if they can meet this next one. Can they, in 2 months, make a down payment of $5,000? No, they can't. You see it, right? They're not going to make it. Now, in their head, they thought, but just by putting the numbers down, we know that they can't. But before we share the bad news to the Joneses, is there any way we can help them figure out how to get to 5,000? Or what is it that we can explain to them? I want to pause here, and at each of your tables, I want you to sit and think about what are some things that they can do, or you can ask them to try to get to that 5,000. It could be whatever. So talk among your tables and see what you can come up with. I'll give you about 3 to 5 minutes, and then we'll come back. I got it. We're good. Hey, put your finger down. Please join the team. Just share ideas. Huh? Be honest. You don't like what? If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. And if you're ready to move forward, let me know. Let's see if I can bring up my notes.
I mean, but consider miscellaneous. You have no idea what that could be. It could be from somebody getting their tooth pulled or an emergency. You have no idea what's miscellaneous.
That's a great point, but let me ask you a question. Every month, it's at least 1,000. Is someone getting their tooth pulled every month?
Yeah, I was about to say
So
that.
all you can do is ask them what's in the miscellaneous line and figure out if they can come back, right? But that's a great point to look at. How you doing over here?
I think that they can save for 2 more months.
Huh?
They can save for 2 more months.
What do you think they can save? What do you, they're gonna have to. I heard you earlier talking about cutting back, right? Where are you thinking they can cut back? That miscellaneous one is shady, right? Like, we don't even know what's in there,
Right.
right?
Right.
I think they can find some money in there. All right, we'll talk to the Jones about that. What's up?
What if they sell their car? I mean, they're getting a new car.
It's a good point. It's a good point. They can, maybe.
And they have
The
2
question
incomes. They need
is,
to learn how to
do they
budget.
need 2 cars? And that's what you're going to help them with. So keep that in mind.
I mean,
What if they're going in 2 different directions? COVID's over, and maybe they need to commute 2 different ways, right? I don't know, but we got to ask them. Buy a cheaper car, or they can carpool. What out of what you see here can we talk to them about that seems a hold Hold on to it. Write that down because we're going to talk about it. What else?
Miscellaneous, obviously.
Let me see that. Miscellaneous.
The kids don't need private school.
Maybe, maybe not, depending where you are. It could help. It may not help. I want you to jot all these things down because it's on the Jones to come up with it. All right? This is good stuff. I like it. All right, I'll give you 2 more minutes and then we'll come back. 2 more minutes. I'm hearing some good stuff.
I think Jake won that one vacation. He would have had enough bread.
Cut them off. Cut them off.
They got it all figured out here.
Oh, do we? All right. All right. How you doing? Are you ready or you need another minute to think? We're ready over here. How we doing over here? I'll give you another 30 seconds while we get our snacks because I know this table got some good stuff over here and I want to give them the opportunity.
Excuse me.
All right, let's come on back. Let's come on back. I want each table.
My name's Trey. This is Damien. It's nice to meet you.
Are we ready?
Like that, bro.
All right, so we're going to go to each table, and each table will give me at least one thing that you think you can discuss and talk to the Joneses about to help them get to their goal. All right, so there's 2 options before we go. Either we figure something out here, or we can't get it right now, right? All right, we'll start over here, and then we'll work our way down. So let's have the whole room. What was that?
They need to get on food stamps.
Their food budget is insane. These little kids are eating lobsters and steak every day. I don't know what's going on. So we did talk to the Jones, and we had a conversation with the Jones, and what we found was that they were eating out a lot. There was a lot of eating out. The grocery bill was okay, but they happened to eat out a lot. So they agreed with you. They were like, all right, we can cut a little bit of that out temporarily to get to what they wanted to do. And they agreed to cut that back by $150. All right? I know, but they agreed to cut it back at $150. Hold on to your thoughts. I want to hear from some other tables. Yeah.
Why do you do food on a budget? You don't, if going out, why don't you consider that miscellaneous? Because you don't really plan for going out.
Let's talk about miscellaneous. Some people don't plan on going out, but some people are like, every Tuesday and Thursday, I ain't cooking. And we eating out. We'll get there. But let's talk about this miscellaneous line. Does everybody understand the concept of miscellaneous?
Just random things.
I call it the mystery line, unless it's you. Miscellaneous, exactly to your point, it's random. It doesn't fit in car payment. It doesn't fit in food. It basically just is everything crumped up together. But we don't know what's in there. And to your point, there is an eating out budget, but this is like going out to a restaurant. They don't plan for that, so they threw that in miscellaneous. This is just takeout in the food section. But let's talk about miscellaneous. So we talked to the Jonas, and we said, hey, your miscellaneous is a little high. Can we do anything with that? And the Joneses were a little tough on it because they were like, well, Mrs. Jones was like, well, I need to get my hair did, my nails done, and this is on a monthly basis. And Mr. Jones is like, I got to cut every week. And so they find out that on grooming, that's called grooming, they're spending like $400 a month. So they just said, all right, how about for 2 months, we cut that back and we'll cut some of the dining out. And they were able to bring this miscellaneous line down to $500. That's huge, $500. There was one more that we heard over here, and then we're going to come back over here. One that you haven't heard. The internet. Internet. How are most of us watching our TV nowadays?
Mirror.
What was that? Mirror? Streaming services. And most streaming services don't cost $200. So let's come back up this way. So what they decided to do, thank you for that, they looked at their internet bill, they cut it back, and they dropped that to about $100 a month. So they're able to save a little bit of money there. So those are the 3 areas that they agreed on. Anything that you haven't heard? We'll come to you in just 1 second. I want to give every table at least one shot.
I mean, if they really wanted to, they could skip a mortgage payment.
I love it. You're thinking outside of the box. I really want this car. What's more important? My house or my car? But let's stick on this mortgage payment decision. Can you do that? You absolutely can do that. But does it benefit you to do that?
No, it doesn't.
It does not benefit you to do that. All right? But it is an option. I told you there's no wrong answers here. We're going to go here and we're going to come there. I don't want your arm to get tired. Yeah. That's a great question. You can talk to the Jones and say, can you trade in that car and help you make the difference up? After talking to the Jones, and they said, unfortunately, with the pandemic being over, we're both going in different directions. We both have to go into the office. And that's why we're getting a second car. But that's an option. It's a great option to have. I remember before the pandemic hit, I used to travel for work often. And I had a car that just sat on my driveway and never used it. And so my wife used to have to commute back and forth to work. So we had a conversation. When her lease was up, and if you have questions about leasing, see me during the break, I'll talk to you about it. But when her lease was up, which is a way you can pay for a car, I said, let's give it in and stick to one car. She didn't like that idea. She felt I was robbing her of her freedom. I need to go when I need to go. But I said, let's give it a shot. If it doesn't work, we'll get a car, and we'll try it out for a year. If it doesn't work, we'll get a new car or a car. We've had one car for close to 4 years. We made it work. So we were paying like $300 a month on a lease, bank that. Simple decisions to take a step back and just analyze what's going on. But great, great point. Before we go to you, we had a hand raised over here.
I feel like the kids don't have to go to private school if they go to public school or charter school.
And that's a great point. That's a great point. So the question you have to ask yourself at that point is managing the education level, which is probably still good, to the private school, and again, going back to the mortgage point, what's more important to you? That car or the level of education for the children? And I'm not saying that's a bad decision. That's a really good something to put on the table. But to them, they felt they went to private school, they wanted to send their kids to private school, and if they couldn't get their car, they would rather send their kids to private school. But I love that thought. We'll go here and then we're going to come here. I love these. Keep them coming. The gas is killing them, especially now. I don't know what you can do about it now. What is it like? It was. They could. They can learn how to cut that down, and I think that they should. But I don't think it's going to save them enough to get to the 5,000. But these are things that they should be doing. I was driving, I was looking at the gas prices, and they were going down. But I chuckled because I was telling my wife, I was like, man, $4 is the regular now. Like, you're happy that it went down, but just a couple of months ago, it was in the threes, and now we've accepted that gas is $4. I'm sorry, go ahead. We were over here. I'm sorry, we were here.
Okay, what was I saying? So sorry. Student loan. Whose student loan is that?
Linda's. So Linda went to school. If you notice, she's making more bank than, but student loans are a thing. It is a thing. You can't avoid them. It's a loan. Well, you actually can. That's a conversation for another day. So think about that as you go into school when you look at student loans. There's ways around them. All right, we got a hand here. We're going to come here, and then we're going to move forward. What do you got?
I feel like all that eating they doing, they can ride a bike or take a walk. They don't need to use the car that much.
I dig it. It's a lot of gas. So there are a couple of things that you want to realize, that these are real numbers here. People pay $100 and not more in gas. Some of it is avoidable. Some of it is not avoidable. I'm going to tell you that much. When that gas price went above $4, people started questioning. You're like, you want to come over? You want to come see me? Because I'm not sure if I want to come see you all the way out there. So people are starting to really think about biking, moving closer to work so they don't have to use their car. But these are great, great points. Now, we talked to the Jones, and the 3 areas that they said, I will work with you to cut this down, is they're going to work on that cable bill, they're going to work on the miscellaneous line, and they're going to work on the food line. Now, here's something else that they can consider. Not buying a car in September. if you move forward a couple of months and you look at this, they'll easily have the money in November. So what does that say? There's a term called delayed gratification. Has anybody ever heard of that term? Delayed gratification. It's real simple. You just delay on gratifying the needs that you want, right? Just by doing the math, you say, if you don't want to change your lifestyle, that's okay. Just know you can't get it in 2 months. You can get it in November. So that's another option that you can have. But let's see after you help them what happened. So some changes happened in their lifestyle. So if you notice, I highlighted them in blue. Now, July's here and gone. There's nothing we can do about July. And they were like, I'm still going to eat as much as I eat. I'm going to start this diet in August, all right? So here's a couple of things that happened. They cut their costs down by the information you gave them, by the help that you provided. And look at what happened in September. They didn't get there. But look at the difference between September before you helped them and look at the difference to September after you helped them. Just by taking a moment and looking at what's happening and deciding that I don't need this to happen moving forward, they just put $1,500 in their pocket. That's real money. Real money. They still wanted a lobster a couple of times a week. Food budget's still up there, but they dropped it down. And ladies and gentlemen, what you have just done is something that us adults don't like doing, is a term called adulting. And you just did it right now. And adulting is a made-up term. It's in my dictionary. You won't find it in the Webster dictionary. But it's taking a moment and pausing and looking at what's happening to see if things could get better in the future. You make a couple of sacrifices now so that you can see and get better in the future. Is this making sense? Is this all right? All right, cool. So we helped the Joneses out. They're not able to buy their car in September, but they're almost there. And they said, I appreciate it. And what's going to happen now, here's one key one that I really want you to look at. Look at this bottom one that says $2,400 on the bottom of September. Look at July. So in July, their leftover money was $1,600. In September, it's $2,400. And that's every month. As long as they keep this moving forward, that's every month. Now, the Jones said, I might not do everything, but I'm going to keep some of this stuff. So now they're banking even more money after they buy their car. They're still going to bank this. You don't save that once. You save that every month. All right? So why is it that we budget, ladies and gentlemen? It's because we have to. We have to budget. I know some people say it's an option, and it is, but when you don't budget, you fall short. We budget because we have to. Most people, I'm not saying most people, some people, how they budget is before they go out somewhere, they look at their bank account, they're like, oh, this is how much I have left, and this is how much I have to spend, and that's how they budget in their head. I'll just make sure that I won't spend more than what's in my bank account. Well, that's a problem because sometimes, especially in this cashless society, and what I mean by cashless society, we don't use cash often. What do we use? A little card, right? What do we get? Swipe happy. And sometimes our banks take a little bit of time to catch up. And thank you for that. Sometimes we get tap happy, which is even worse because it's on our phone. And I'm not against technology. I love technology. But we have to be able to use it as a tool. And so what tends to happen, I'll give you a story. Years ago, I was in New York City, as I mentioned, visiting family. And what did I do? I looked at my bank account. This is how much money I have to spend. I'm good. All my bills are paid. I'm out. Went home, flew in. And so what did I do? Subway swipe, coffee swipe, eating lunch swipe, a couple of adult beverages swipe, all of this stuff, swipey swipe. In my head, I'm calculating this. I'm good. I get home. I went to go buy some groceries. Lady pulled over and said, hey, sir, I'm sorry, your card's not working. I was like, you better swipe that again. I know what I have in my account. Swiped again. Unfortunately, it didn't work. So what do? I go home, look at my online account. I was in the red. Did I miscalculate it? Absolutely not. I got an account agree. I know what I'm doing. But what happened? I paid an electric bill that I thought posted. but the bank didn't catch up. I looked at the total, and I didn't look at everything that was in my account. And that electric bill didn't hit. And the banks, because they thought they were doing me a favor, what did they do? They said, I knew you didn't want your electric bill getting shut off, so I'm going to pay that first. But Mr. Coffee, I'm not going to pay, and everything else I'm not going to pay, right? So not only did I owe them for the stuff that I overspent, they also charged me for every time I swiped that card that I didn't have money in my account. And they charged me $30 every time. 7 times. That's $210. I not only didn't have money, but they took more money than I didn't have. So, ladies and gentlemen, one mistake caused me not just money, but it cost me stress and it cost me grief. And this is why we budget, ladies and gentlemen, so that we make sure we don't fall yourselves into those type of mistakes. Why else do we budget? So that we can look forward. All of us have goals. All of us have plans. All of us want things, right? All of us want things. And sometimes we can't have those things right now. Well, the world's made it in a way where you can. You really shouldn't unless you have it. But this is how we can look forward. We take our budgeting, and just like we did for the Joneses, we look forward. And we say, all right, I can't have it right now. When can I have it? And this is exactly why we budget. Well, ladies and gentlemen, wouldn't be fun unless I actually gave you more work to do. So that's what we're going to do right now. So a couple of things we're going to do is, in the moment, what I'd like you to do is I want you to think for a moment and talk amongst your table. And you were mentioning it earlier when you were working on your exercise before I got here. I want you to think about examples of expenses. Remember, expenses are those things that we need to spend that you will have to budget for once you start working. So talk amongst your table. This shouldn't take long. Let's say about 3 minutes. We'll come back, and I want to hear, all right, here, I want you to write down at least 3 to 5 things each table. Each table is going to give me one item. Now, here is where you want 3 to 5 things. When we get to the next table, I don't want any repeats. So if one person gave me one item, the next person cannot give me the same item. All right? So we're going to work as a table, and then we'll come back. I'll give you 3 minutes, and then we'll start. Go ahead. So think about this. When you have your job, what are the expenses you're going to have?
Bro, you speak soft and quiet. You wanna come over here so we can hear you? No ideas matter. Go ahead. See, I don't want to be generic and say stuff like student loan because it's a given.
It's not. It isn't. Write it down.
It's not a given.
Write it down. Just write it down. Anything that comes to mind, something that is an expense that you're going to have. And then whether it is or not, we'll talk about it.
How many clothing, if you genuinely buy like a certain amount of clothing a month and you spend a certain amount of it, like if I spend $300 on clothing because I genuinely do it, then it would be expensive. So clothes another one?
I'll give you another minute, and then we'll come back.
I'm just trying to. I don't know because I know because once they start going, I feel like we're gonna be like second or third. They might take the ones that we had. I don't know what though.
Just make sure you raise your hand first.
We can do like armchair.
Do you need more time, or are you okay? Another 30 seconds?
Yeah, just another. Cause like I saw like the general stuff, you know, I'm taking care of. I don't like anything. I saw like my own stuff, and you know, I pay a bill or two. I pay myself for it. But outside of that, I don't really do much with my money. I put it up.
All right, how we doing? We're ready?
Yeah, we got.
Are we ready to share? Or you need another minute?
I think we got enough.
Okay, one more minute. We'll go one more minute, and then we'll come back. If you're done, just hang out, and then we'll get going.
Student loan and tuition is different. Tuition is what you're paying to like go. Student loans is what you take from them. You have to pay back. Pretty sure you do. I don't want to write like we could write utilities, I guess. Because whenever I think budget, I immediately think like bills and things like wants and needs. Wants and needs.
Focus on those things. I think you're on the right track, are the things that you know you will have to pay. You know what I mean? So you're focusing on.
Gas is definitely big, I guess. I think we got enough though. We got enough.
All right, let's come on back. Let's come on back. Who would like to go first? All right, that was a quick hand. All right, we're going to go around the room. We're going to get one item from every table. Remember, no repeats, and then we'll go back around if there's anything else you would like to share. So we'll start here. As we're thinking about items that you will need to budget for when you start working, what's an example of that?
Utilities.
Utilities. All right, utilities. Give me an example of utilities. Electric bill. Now remember, I want you to think about, this is great, what are you actually going to be paying for? Are you going to be helping your parents with that, your guardians, or are you living on your own? Just picture those things in your head. Thank you for sharing. Who'd like to go next? Rent? Rent? Absolutely. Absolutely. What else we got? Gas. 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 Because you got to get to and from work, right? To and from work. One from over here. To buy a car. To save up for an actual car. Absolutely. What did I hear over there? Food, right? Food. When you come to work, you got to eat. You think they're just going to feed you? They're going to feed you. You either got a plan to make lunch. I used to bring lunch to work most of the time, or to pay for lunch. All right? So here's something that we're going to give you. I want to give you some homework. I know. But yes, I'm going to give you homework. And we're going to talk about that. Go ahead. What else you got? Yeah, it's back to you. Because she done told you. Daycare. Daycare's a huge one. Absolutely. You're no longer home. You're actually working. If you don't have kids, then you ain't got to worry about daycare. It's a good one, right? If you don't have kids, that's something you don't have to worry about. Any others that we haven't heard? Yes, sir. One more time. Cleaning? Eating, right? Food, absolutely. And I will...
Like warm, heating,
Heating, utilities. And forgive me, I actually, honestly, specifically, I can't hear. I wear hearing aids. So I have issue hearing. So it's nothing on you or anybody else. When I tell you to scream at me, you can take your anger out on me if you like. Yeah. Credit card bill. We're going to try to avoid that, though. But yes, a credit card bill. If you have it, take care of it. We're going to try to avoid that as best as possible. Here's one. Clothes. Clothes. Are all of you prepared to dress for the work environment? Do you have the clothes that you need to wherever you're working? That's something that you may have to budget for. All right? So here's the next part of this exercise. But this portion is for you to do at home. Now, in a moment, feel free to come up here and take a picture of this. All right? I'm going to leave this up. Because what the next portion of this exercise that you're going to do is you're going to fill out a budget. You're going to actually fill out a budget. Right now, the information that you probably can find is what's it going to cost you to get to and from work? You got to figure that out, right? Maybe you can map. Listen, it's all mathematics. You're like, well, I don't know how much gas is. It's real easy. MapQuest how far it is from your house and back. Then kind of get an idea of what does anybody know what MPG is? I'm getting complicated here. Mile per gallon is on your car, and you can do the math. You can generally figure out how much gas it's going to take you to get to and from, generally speaking. But you have a number. You just want a random number. Random number. And I bet you can get the Say Yes team to help you out. Ha, ha. All right. If you're carpooling, how much are you going to be helping out? If it's public transportation, figuring that out. Food, you can figure that out. Compare. How much is a PB&J sandwich and bringing it in? Anybody else love PB&J? I love PB&J. Stop it. PB&J, if you can eat that. Compared to how much is eating where you're going to be working at. And you can find this information out. How much is it going to cost for you to eat if you actually paid for lunch at the site? All right? Because it could be $10 a day or $2 a day. So you want to figure it out. Figure out clothes. We talked about a number of different things. Some of this stuff you can figure out now. Because you can just ask a question. Is it a cell phone? How much is your cell phone bill? So I want you to start jotting this stuff down. Then once you figure out how much you get paid, you'll put it up here. And then you'll figure out your leftover that you have. And what is that called? What's the leftover called? Net income. Net income. Okay? Here's the last piece. And this is just to have in the back of your mind. I want you to think about something that you want to buy that's around $500. It doesn't mean you have to buy it. Just think about something that you want to buy that's $500. And with the leftover money that you have, I want you to figure out how long it's going to take you to save for it. Somebody mentioned the car. It doesn't have to be $500. It could be more. But I want you to think about something that's $500 and how long it's going to take you to save up for it, just like we did with the Jones. Now, you can quickly do this. Take a picture of this. You can pull up an Excel. You can pull up a sheet. You can pull up a notes. So many simple ways for you to jot this information down. There's a lot of things that do the math for you, but figure this out, and this is going to help you. Now, here's one key thing. It's going back to adulting. Guess who's going to be holding you accountable to do this? It ain't going to be me. Hopefully, I see you some other time. The Say Yes team isn't going to do it. It's going to be yourself. That's right. It's going to be yourself. This is going to be the make or break. This is going to be how you're able to see something you want and decide when it's best to get it. It's not getting it. It's when it's best to get it. All right, does that make sense? Is that helpful? So I'm going to leave this up for a little bit, and what we're going to do right now is we're actually going to take a break. I'm going to give you a break, stretch your legs, get some water, and we'll come back in around 10 minutes. I'll leave this up in case you want to take pictures of it, write it down. We'll come back. It is 11:27. Before I say that, I just want to let you know you're probably taking breaks today. I'm going to get started exactly at 11:38. And if you're not here, that's okay. Just find your seat and then come back. But we're going to get started at 11:38. So let's take a break now, and then we'll come back. And let's come on back. Let's come on back. So we took a break. Hopefully you were able to stretch your legs, take a picture of the budget, and are ready to tell your money where to go. So now that you know exactly how to tell your money where to go, and if I understand correctly, there will be an opportunity that you'll be getting money. But the idea is when you get that money, we're going to talk about this the rest of this session on how is it that you translate what they give you into money, and I'll talk about it, that paycheck. In addition to that, we're going to talk about where exactly we should be storing it, all right? Because it's probably best that you don't store it in your wallet. But we'll find out a little bit more about that. So let's talk about this whole paycheck, that piece of paper. So for most of you, any of you, have you had a job in the past? If you haven't, that's perfectly fine. When you had a job, they gave you a piece of paper, and that piece of paper was called a paycheck. And that paycheck was what turned into money, right? Now, that paycheck is broken up into two pieces, broken up into a pay stub and a paycheck. Yes? I'm sorry? Pay stub, exactly. Thank you for that. The pay stub basically tells you the amount on your paycheck. How did they come up with that amount? All right? Because if this is going to be your first job, what's probably going to happen, which happened to most of us, you're going to see that paycheck and you're going to be like, somebody robbed me. Somebody went in my pockets and they took, because it's not what I signed up for. Yes, sir. And that is exactly what's on the pay stub. And so you want to understand when you look at that pay stub, you have a gross pay. And it's gross because you look at it and that's not what you come home with. But the gross pay is what you earned. Whatever your hourly rate was times the hours you work, that's what you earned at that gross pay. The net pay sounds like net income, right? Similar to that. Your net pay is what you actually come home with after they take out a couple of things. What do they take out? As you mentioned, a couple hundreds, depending on how much you make. They take out taxes. They take out federal taxes and state taxes. Oh. Say that again? FICA. Who's FICA? And what I do to FICA? It's all types of things. Now, don't get too upset about it because that's how we're able to drive on roads. There's stop signs. There's a bunch of things that those taxes support. Now, I'll give a small plug. This is why you all need to vote. Because the people you vote for are the people that are in charge of where that money goes. Does that make sense? All right. Yes, sir. Say that again. Let's give this gentleman, he had his hand up. Let's go ahead and give him our attention. All right, what was it? We can go into this and we can be upset. We can hug it out and all of that, but there's nothing you can do about it. It's coming out. I just want you to be aware, and I'll get to you in a second, that when you get that check, you're going to see a gross pay line and you're going to see a net pay line. And that's important because as you budget your money on what's coming in, what are you focusing on, that gross pay or that net pay? What's coming out? That's right, that net pay. Because this is the amount that's coming in. This is the amount that's coming in. Yes, sir. It's a percentage. That's how they do it. They take a percentage out of what you make. All right? So in addition to that, on the check, you want to make sure you know your gross pay, you know your net pay, you understand that there's things coming out of it. In addition to that, there's, for some of you, you're going to get vacation paid. You're going to get vacation paid. Some of you, maybe none of you, I wasn't as lucky, but some of you may. But I bring that up for a reason. Because if you are in the group that are not getting a vacation paid, and what that basically means that if you request to take time off, some companies will pay you while you're off. They'll give you a couple of days, maybe 5 days for you to take off if they pay you. If you take time off and you're not paid, you have to remember this. Because for some reason, when people take time off of work and they get their check, it's like they're like, what happened? Where'd my money go? Well, you didn't work 2 days in that week, so of course this is going to be less. So when you take that time off, just know that that's going to impact this. And you have to prepare for that information on your budget. Does that make sense? Right? That makes sense for some? Just forgot about it. Now, for those of you who do get vacation pay, you usually get some of it. Until that runs out, fortunately, it'll fill that gap. Now, can I ask a question? When you were going through your HR, did you talk about scheduling vacation and things of that nature? Well, I'll speak to you. For those of you, all of you, when you start working, your company is going to give you some rules and regulations. One of those rules and regulations, the small plug, that when you want to take time off, they're going to tell you how much time you have to tell them in advance. Some companies a week, other companies are 2 weeks, some maybe 3. And what that basically means is before you say, I want to go on vacation, you have to tell them 3 weeks in advance. Why? Because they have to cover, someone has to do what you were doing. And they want to make sure they prepare for that. So as you're about to get started, something to consider, and you can talk to the Say Yes team about that. If you know you have a family vacation coming up, it can be in December, it can be in September. You want to tell them now. So they're like, okay, thank you for letting us know. We'll prepare for that. Because your job has the right to say, no, I can't have you take off that day because I'm not prepared for that. Because they still need to have that job done. So telling them more in advance will allow them to prepare for that better. Is that making sense? Small plug for that. I had a hand up over here. You good? All right, if you come back to you, just raise that hand again and we'll come back to it. So that's pretty much a paycheck. You have your pay stub on what's in it, the money coming in, money coming out, and what to expect on your net pay. I think there was something else and I can't remember. It'll come back to me. All right. Now, all of you will be receiving something called a paycheck. Now, we talked about the pay stub. What about the paycheck? You get this piece of paper. How do you translate that to buying something? You can't take this to Wegmans and say, hey, can you pay for my groceries with this and give me some change? How do you turn this into cash, the money? What was that? You can deposit into your bank account. Anywhere else? Say it again. Check cash in place. Absolutely. It's a spot. It's a real thing. You want to come up here? You want to take my class? You know what she's doing? Yes, sir. Direct deposit, absolutely. Does anybody know what direct deposit is? All right, we're going to talk about that in just a second. So, ladies and gentlemen, you get a paycheck, right? In addition to yes, that's what we're going to talk about. Thank you, man. You hold on to that thought because I'm going to get to you, I promise. Now, for some of you, you may get what's called a pay card because a lot of companies are doing this now. They're not giving paychecks anymore. They're not giving paper checks. They're giving a pay card. Pay cards are okay. They're okay. They act like a card where you go like a gift card. You go swipe and you go pay for what you need to pay for. But you have to remember they have some limitations. They have fees attached to them. So again, this is your money. You want to keep as much of it as possible. Not every place accepts them. You might not be able to use them everywhere. And you can't use them at every ATM. Does everybody know what an ATM is? ATM is those machines that you put your card in, they give you money back, right? All right. Some of them are. And we'll talk about that in a second. But just remember, with the pay card, they're okay, but they have some limitations with them. All right? So what other options do we have? I saw a hand up. No? All right. If you remember, yeah. There's different things that you can do. Now, like I said, it's okay, but it has some limitations for you to work with. All right, we heard it earlier. Check cash in place. It's an option. You take your check, you bring it to this check cash in place. I don't recommend it because they do charge you. It's your money. You want all of it back. And also, a lot of these check cash in places aren't in the best areas, so you end up coming out with this water money in areas that aren't the best areas. And remember, I grew up in the South Bronx. I knew all about check cash in places. So it's an option. I'm not telling you to take it off the table, but it's not the best option. And as we stated earlier, we also have something called a bank. You can deposit it right into a bank, and which is what you want to do. All right? It's a good option. It's about an option I recommend. Remember, as I teach you now or anytime in the future, I am not going to tell you what to do. I'm going to give you information, and I'm going to tell you what works best for me. And you do best with that information. Sounds good? Is that okay with everyone? So banks, I recommend them. And there's something called direct deposit. Does anybody know what a direct deposit is? Direct deposit. Most of the questions I ask you are going to be super easy. Just throw them out there. It's direct deposit. What direct deposit does is it takes the money in the check. The company will take it instead of giving you a check, they just go, they team up with the bank, and they put it right in your account. All right? They put it right in your account. Here's another plug. Did you talk about this in HR, direct deposit? It's okay, I'll bring it up. Perfectly fine. Direct deposits. When you start your job, your employer, that's the person you work for. You're the employee, they're the employer. Doesn't make them better than you, it's just two different names. Employer, employee. Your employer is going to ask you, do you need a direct deposit form? You're going to say yes. Okay? You're going to say yes. That direct deposit form you're going to need to fill out with some information about the bank account that if you choose to have, and you give it back to the employer. And then that's what they're going to use to say, I'm going to send your money right to your bank. That to me is the fastest and easiest way to get there. Because just imagine, you don't want to do direct deposit, just the effort you have to take your check, go to the bank, cash it, sometimes it doesn't clear right away, and then get your money. And this has happened. Let's say the mail's late. Your check-in day is Thursday, it doesn't get here to Friday to Saturday, but you need that money now. Well, that's not going to be any of you because you're going to budget. Your check doesn't come, you good. You got money in the bank. But I say the easiest way is direct deposit. And then we'll come to you.
Another thing to keep in mind, most banks close early on Friday, and they close early and open late on Saturday.
So you got to try to figure out, go on your lunch. You got to figure out to go on your lunch, and you end up on Delavan going to the check cashing spot. And they got your money. So there's other ways.
But a good amount of banks nowadays
Have Saturday
have
hours.
the app you can deposit from.
You can take a picture, cha-ching. And they use.
Check your app and make sure.
You sometimes have to wait for it to process. But again, it's just, you can avoid that by direct depositing. I'll go here, then here. You had a question, a comment, a thought?
When they give you that paper for direct deposit, ain't that when you write like your group number and your account number?
All of that information. And we're going to talk about banks in just a second. Now, if you do need help with that, Say Yes Team can help you. They can reach out to me. Absolutely super simple. I'm just getting you ready in your head because oftentimes when you see this, you're like, I don't know. But now you heard it already. You'll say yes. That information is super easy to find. All right? All right, so now that we know how to get our money, they're giving us our money, we know how to get our money, where is it that we're going to store our money? Ladies and gentlemen, the old banking system. The old banking system. So in a bank, when you go to a bank, there's a lot of different accounts, but the two that we're going to talk about specifically, it's a saving account as well as a checking account. So let me ask you, what do you do with the savings account? What do you think it's for? What was that? To save money. I told you, these are going to be easy, ladies and gentlemen. You use a savings account to save money. That's pretty much the purpose of a savings account. I do recommend them as you stack your money, as you save, keep it in a separate account because your checking account is for everything else. Your bills, your meals, anything that you're doing is going to be right out of your checking account. So a checking account is super easy to set up. Nowadays, you don't even have to go in. I do recommend it. If you have questions, you can stop in. We're actually in a bank right now. I don't know if anybody knew that. M&T. So they're super easy to set up. You set up a bank account. They'll tell you the information you need to bring in, usually some identification, and you'll set up a bank account. And now what the bank account is available for you to store money in. With that bank account, you get a checking account number and you get what's called a routing number. Don't overthink this. That information is given to you, and all you have to do is copy it from one place to another. Really super simple to do. Direct deposit to do that. Now, if you decide to get an account from a bank, my recommendation is you talk to them about a student account. These student accounts, they don't have any fees. They're pretty much free for you to use. They limit you on what you can use, but for the most part, what you need to do, you can do it. So you'll go in, you tell them I'm a student, and they'll set you up for a student account. Because what you're looking for is no fees. If for whatever reason you're unable to set up a student account, just ask them for an account that has no fees. And usually, if you direct deposit into that bank, they'll allow you. They won't charge you any fees. Now, before I go there, if you go to an account, a bank, I will look online first. What banks have student accounts, and then look up the local ones. You want your M&Ts, your Key Bank, things like that, because they're easily accessible to you. And if they don't have one, guess what? You don't have to go for them. Remember, you're hiring them to hold your money. Okay, so don't go in there. If they tell you to do something you don't like, you're like, I'm out. And go to the next one, okay? But you can do a lot of research online. We're gonna go here, and I think you may have, no? Okay, was that here? All right, great question. One of the fees I mentioned earlier, there's something called an overdraft fee. You can't, every bank account is gonna have an overdraft fee. They've gotten a lot better. Before, banks used to make bank off of overdraft fees, but they've gotten a lot better where they situate you in a way where you try not to get an overdraft fee. You can't avoid the overdraft fee. But what happens with checking accounts, you're basically using their bank to do interactions. And the fees they charge you per the amount of checks that you write, for the amount of transactions that you have. So there are different types of fees like that. But as a student, they won't charge you for that. Or if you have direct deposit, they won't charge you for that. All right? That make sense? Yes, sir. You can have the student account until they tell you that you can't have the student account. How's that sound? All right? Because but here's the thing. What's going to happen is you want to rock out that student account as long as you can. As you grow professionally and personally, you're going to find that you have different needs. And that student account doesn't meet those needs. And that's okay. Because you're going to be making more money. And then you don't want to box yourself in to save a couple of pennies where you could be making a lot more. All right? So write out that student account until you don't need it anymore. Does that help? All right. Is that good so far? All right. What else I have for you? In addition to that, we had a couple of fees and we just talked about them, those overdraft fees. And in addition to that, ATM fees. Does anybody know about ATM fees? Getting you hard. All right? Yes, sir. Yes, but it's your dollar. But here's something else that you don't know. Most banks charge you on the back end. So while Delavan or wherever it is that you mentioned to me charges you $1, your bank's going to charge you for using that.
Yeah, they be charging me $4.
Depending. Some banks don't, but most banks do. So here's what happens. It was $1. Your bank charged you $3 to $5. Now you spent $6 to take out $20.
Yeah.
And you ain't even know about it.
You make it take like $2.50, and then like it's like $4 for my babies, and that's like $6.
It makes no sense.
Yeah, trying to take
Why would you do that? So what do? I try my best to only take out cash from my bank. Because if you go to your bank, they won't charge you. They won't charge you. Okay? Here's another one. Tricks of the trades. If you go to Wegmans or the supermarket and you get cash back, they won't charge you. All right? So you're at the supermarket, you're like, I need $40 for that. While you're at the supermarket, go ahead and do that. Now, some mistakes. I'm going to tell you some mistakes that I made that I don't recommend. I don't feel like going to the bank. I'll go into Wegmans and buy a Snickers bar that I don't need, but I wanted cash back. So now it costs me a Snickers bar to get my money. So just these are things that you want to consider. Do you really need that money at that time? Because it's going to cost you like $4 to $5 to get it. You can do that too. Here's a better idea. I got a great idea. Now, this doesn't count for emergencies, but here's a really good idea. You can budget your money and you won't need to go to the ATM much. Because you're going to know where you're going to need it. You're going to know when you're going to need it. Now, emergencies happen. You need cash. But if you plan for those and you have that money available already, you won't find yourself in those situations. Or at least you'll find yourself in a situation where you have enough time to go to the bank and take the money out. You don't have to cash app. You don't have to do any of that. Does that make sense? Does that help? So be careful with these fees. They will get you every time. And it's not their responsibility to not get you. I'm not saying they hoping to get you. Sometimes I feel that way. But it is your responsibility to pay attention to your money. I want to pause here because all of you are going to face this. What questions do you have? About banks? About anything that I talked about?
Are banks evil?
Thank you for that.
Are they evil?
Say that again?
Are banks evil?
No, but banks are for profit. Does anybody know what for profit means? A bank is there to make money. However they make it, they're going to make it. And that's why it's your responsibility to make sure that you don't find yourself in a place that could hurt you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Which brings me up to credit unions and the difference between credit unions and banks. We're going to go here then here. Yes? How many you want to open up as many bank accounts as you need. And most of you right now only need two. You need a checking and you need a savings. If you open up the savings with the same bank, you want to read into it because savings accounts also charge fees, or they tell you you have to have a minimum. Like they'll say you have to have $500 in there all the time. You don't want those. Some of them will tell you if you deposit $25 a month, we won't charge you any fees. That's okay. Because then what they'll do is they'll take $25 every month out of this account and put it into that account. And that's okay because blindly you're just putting money on the side. But just know that that's happening. Because if it's not there, they're going to try to grab it. It's not there. They're going to charge you a fee. And then there's other accounts that you can find that won't charge you any fees. Some online accounts that do that. So again, as you're looking up your savings and your checking, when you go into that bank, they're going to try to sell you. Remember, advertising. Because they're for profit. They're going to say, you need this, you need this. And you tell them, I'm here for one thing. This, and I don't want any fees. Well, I can't do that. Well, you're not the bank for me. Does that make sense? You got a question? Okay, if it comes back to you, tell me. Credit unions. Credit unions. Nowadays, there's not much of a difference between a credit union and a bank. Because in the past, credit unions were a little challenging because they were just starting off. But nowadays, whatever you get in a bank, you get at a credit union. Here's a cool thing about credit unions. They're non-for-profit, meaning that credit unions are built not to make money, but to serve the people there. Doesn't that sound amazing? So I'm not saying for-profit is evil, but if that's what you're thinking. So credit unions, that's the main difference, that banks are for-profit, credit unions are non-for-profit. And I like credit unions. I don't have one yet, but I'm looking into them. But I want to give you, again, recommendations from me, informations. As for you, there's some small challenges with credit unions. There's some great benefits with credit unions, some small challenges that you may face. You may be at a credit union, there may not be a lot of them. So if you need to go to an actual bank or a credit union to speak to somebody, you may be limited. There is a very small membership fee to be a part of credit unions. Now again, there's great benefits. My recommendation right now is to find a free bank account with a bank, get yourself situated, learn about credit unions, and if you like what they do, then go to a credit union. But again, that's just what I recommend as you're starting off. We're gonna go here, and then I saw another hand up. Yeah.
Okay, so some banks have like a credit card, like where you could get like a credit card.
They do. They
Is
do.
that a credit union?
That's a great question, and I want you to hold on to that. Keep me honest, because we're going to talk about in a little bit. It's this term called credit, and it's going to be around that. But I don't want to get ahead of myself. Yes. Yep. Completely separate service. Completely separate service. Now you may get a discount if you have an account there, but they will charge you for a safety. Does anybody know what a safety security box is? So in a bank, that's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. So if you have valuables that you don't want to keep at home, the bank will hold them for you. And you just pay like a monthly fee, and they'll keep them secure in their safe. And it's maybe a small box. You can change it, and you can put them. Some people put expensive comic books in there. Some people are starting to put sneakers in there because it's a valuable that they don't want to keep home, that they're not using, and they're hiding away. All right? So if you have valuables, you need to talk to me because I'm doing something wrong. I don't have a safety security box. All right. What else we got? Keys? Yeah. When you put you want diamonds, don't you? Diamonds last forever. So banks, again, ladies and gentlemen, it's gonna seem complicated at first, but it really isn't. When you get to that, talk to your support team. They need to reach out to me. Go when you're at the bank, those individuals are there to help you. But just know that you have the power. And you can walk away not doing anything. You can just say, thank you for the information. I am going to think about this, and I have your number to call you. A lot of us, when we walk into places, we don't think we have that power. But you always have that power because they're good salesmen, good advertisement. But when you walk in, you have that right to, like, you know what? There's great information. I'm going to go home, think about it, and then come back. Your hand. Say it again. Do banks, say it one more time. No, they don't. You would have to go to specific places. The only thing banks do is store money. Now, there's a lot of things that happen behind the scenes. Behind the scenes, you can buy not a brick of gold, but you can buy into gold. It's two different things, a whole different conversation. Maybe they'll bring me back on stocks and investment, and I'll tell you all about that. Yeah, I got you. Because you can actually buy into gold and not necessarily have the gold in hand, or you can actually buy gold. Say that again?
You should come back for the stocks and investments.
You talk to them, they'll get me back here, and I got you. All right, so this is banks. Just remember, this is what you're facing now for most of you. You're gonna face this. You can talk to them, you can get ready. When you first get that paycheck, you get that form, start that bank, because that's the easiest way to access your money is through direct deposit, all right? But that's the thing you want to get out of. The easiest way you can access your money is through direct deposit. Do what you think is best for you. That's the easiest way I found for you to access your money. And we're going to go in a moment into a couple of bonus tracks that I got for you. But before we go there, I want to bring up something I like to end most of my sessions with. And that's the concept of financial freedom. Has anybody ever heard of this concept? Financial freedom, all right? Now, I won't define financial freedom because to everyone it can mean something different. It can mean something different, all right? But financial freedom is wrapped around two particular things for most people. It's about financial freedom now and financial freedom later. When we think about financial freedom now, it's about having a lifestyle that we desire. Like the money that I have coming in, is it supporting the lifestyle I desire for myself and my family? It gives you a freedom to be able to do that. And you can go even further to be able to build systems that can do this without you working. But another conversation for another day. But also in the future, financial freedom is about having enough money to retire with the lifestyle that you desire. Now, the lifestyle that you have now, I'm going to tell you, you may not think it is going to be different than the lifestyle you want later. Because as you grow, things evolve. But also, and here's one that a lot of people don't think about, in the future, imagine picking a job and not base it on money. That blows a lot of people's minds. It's like, why would I do that? Why would I work? And why would money be the top thing on that? Yes, sir. Say that again? Mental health, absolutely. Now, here's the thing. When you think about financial freedom, it's something I want you to think about. I think J. Cole said it best, love yours. As you think about money, the one lesson that I learned is, or many lessons I learned, but one of them is that no matter how much money you make, no matter how much money, and you're going to make a lot of it, what matters most if you love what you do, if you love the job that you have. And I want you to hear this one carefully. And you also love the people you choose to be around. And if you can figure out those two things, it doesn't matter how much money you have or you don't have, you'll learn to be happy. And I'm a living testament of that. I remember years ago, I was offered six-figure salaries, six-figure plus salaries. Some of them were double my income. but they didn't match where I wanted to go, and I knew I wasn't going to be happy. I was just going to be working, doing a thing I didn't love for hours I didn't want to do. So in patience and waiting, I found a job where not only I didn't make more, I made the same amount. And actually, when you're in jobs, you have grades. The higher the grade, the more money. They actually dropped me a grade. But I accepted it because what I was doing was teaching. This exactly. And every day, there wasn't a day that felt like work to me. Every day felt like a dream. Imagine doing what you love and they actually paid you for it. Like I used to call my manager and be like, yeah, this is a lie. Y'all gonna take this from me? This isn't happening. But I easily made that decision because I was getting paid what I love to do, and that's teaching. So when you find that place of what you love to do, I guarantee that money isn't gonna be your biggest option. Now, I was able to make that decision because I built my life to take that dip. I didn't build a lifestyle that was dependent on my salary. Because that's what tends to happen. A lot of people think financial freedom is more money. I got to get more money. I got to get all this money so that I can get the things that I love. And here's the trick that happens, the trap. You get this money, you build this lifestyle that's dependent on your money, and you hit a brick wall. And you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. But you can't stop because this lifestyle depends on it. If you stop working, you have to still pay your house. You still have to pay the cars you bought, the diamonds. They're all still there. And again, like I said, I'm not against any of this. I was telling that story earlier that I like cars. I don't love them, but I like cars. And one of my dream cars is a Mercedes G-Wagon. I don't know if anybody's seen them things. Things are nice. And I seen one on a suspension kit. Them things start at like 120,000. Just start. Now, could I get that car now? I probably could. I probably have to eat peanut butter and jelly sandwich most of the days. But could I get that now? Absolutely. But what I've learned was it's not on the high priority list for me. And what I did was, I remember I was telling him earlier that in my old job, I used to travel a lot to different places. And when I would go rent cars, there was a lot of cars, and you pick the car you want, and they were nice cars. I remember I was in Jersey, and there was a BMW 5 Series. There were two of them. I ran to that thing like it was the last one on earth. Because I'd never driven a BMW. I've never been in a 5 Series BMW. And there were only two of them, and I knew everybody else was thinking the same thing. So I ran to that car, got in the car. I'm taking selfies, FaceTiming my wife. I was like, look at this thing. This thing is dope. So I get in this car, setting up Bluetooth. This thing is hugging turns. It is magical. So where I was driving was about 45 minutes away. And I remember this clearly. 15 minutes into my drive, it just came to me. I'll call it divine intervention. And I forgot I was in a BMW. I was just in a car. So you can spend your money how you want to spend it, but just remember what matters. Doing what you love and the people you choose to be around. Once you figure that out, you'll always be happy. Financial freedom. Not about more, it's about less. One more thing I'll say is I was thinking about being able to take a dip in my career. The reason I was able to do that is because I set myself in a place, and imagine this. When you think about retirement, what do you think about? Just having this luxurious life, retiring with enough money to retire. What if you set yourself up where what you're retiring with is less? Let's say your house is just a little bit smaller. Let's say you bought a used car instead of a new car. And by the time you retire, that stuff is paid off. And you got money in the bank. Maybe you can retire a little earlier. Because what we think about is more. But if you really look at it as less, you're less dependent on stuff. You can get out of that a lot sooner. So just keep that in mind. And before we go into the bonus tracks, I'll leave you with a couple of key takeaways. And I want you to remember a couple of things here. Remember, you make money, why? To use it, to spend it. Don't let anybody tell you different. But just make sure that you're choosing to spend it in the best way possible, in the wisest way. When you think about a budget is just a tool for you to use to tell your money where to go. Remember that. Tell your money where to go. And it helps you prepare for tomorrow. That's what a budget's for. Remember the difference between gross income. It's gross because you see it, but you never get it. But your net income is what you take home. Remember that. Your net income is what you take home. And lastly, direct deposit is the fastest way for you to get your money. So a couple of things as we go through a couple of key takeaways. And this is a saying from a gentleman named Will Rogers. And you probably heard Will Smith say it often. And I know he's in a bad place. I still think he's a good dude. But he used to say this often. Too many people spend money that they haven't even earned to buy things they don't even want to impress people they don't even like. Remember that. Remember that. All right. Do we have time for bonus tracks? Oh, and in case any of you want to reach me, that's my email address. Feel free, or you can get it from the Say Yes team. They'll, please do. It's going to be my name, Alexis Beltre at 03@gmail.
A couple of, we touched a little bit on like how their income may help their family home if they're staying home. So just kind of how that could affect the household will come like tax season and stuff. How that works.
Bonus tracks. Oh, you missed it. We got you. All right, a couple of things in bonus tracks. I know everyone's stomach is growling, and I am the one thing stopping you from eating lunch. All right, first thing that you should know is that we talked about taxes on your pay stub, a date that you want to have on the back of your head. Don't memorize it. April 15th. You'll hear it often. April 15th is the day everyone here in this room, once you get a job, you have to file for taxes. Just something I want to throw out to you. Don't be surprised. Don't be shocked. Even if your guardians, even if they claim you, you can still file for taxes and get a refund. Most of you should get a refund. So just know that in January, early February, you'll get something called a W-2. That's what you'll use to file your taxes. Here's what I recommend you do. It's a little overcomplicated, but I think you should. Work with the if you get claimed, work with that person and see how much the refund they get if they claim you and how much you get of a refund if they don't claim you. Whichever one's more, go that route, and then you work with each other to come up with a compromise on money. Does that make sense? This is about adulting, looking forward, partnering with each other. Yes? Say that once again.
It's okay if we tax your file, even though our parents pay.
You want to file. You want to file. As a matter of fact, you should file because you're leaving money on the table. When you pay for taxes and when you file, you'll notice early on, if you're not making a huge amount of money, you'll get some of that back. And if they claim you, it's okay. Very easily, what happens is when you file your taxes, if they claimed you, you can't just use yourself an exemption, that's all. But they'll ask you that. Is someone using you as an exemption? You'll say yes, and you can still file your taxes. Yes?
You file as a dependent.
Correct. And that's it. And that's it right there. But you can still get some of your taxes back. So do both routes. If they claimed you, if they didn't claim you, and see which is the best bang for the buck. Does that make sense? All right. The next one here, as you were mentioning earlier, I can speak for me. Growing up, we had benefits that helped us coming into the household. At the time, it was called food stamps. I think it's called SNAP now. I think it's a little different. You know, I used to go to the grocery store, come with a paper money, and give it to the man in the stand so they didn't see it. Or you couldn't rip out the bigger ones. I wish I was this fancy. But I just want you to know that the income you bring into your house could impact that. So what you want to do is talk to your family, find out what benefits are coming in, and then Google how much money can be in the household. Because what happens is these benefit packages, they don't take the person receiving, they take the whole household income. So when you bring in income, it's going to raise that amount, and it could impact it. It's okay, perfectly fine, but you just want to know that and be aware of it so you're prepared. Now, you ready for me to get overcomplicated? Because I'm going to do it again. What you can do is you can compare what it would be like if you didn't live there. Like, for example, if you had an apartment with a roommate or something like that, how much would that cost you? Because if their benefits get reduced a certain amount, it might be the same amount of you getting your own apartment. So that's why you want to get to know this. Yes, sir. So find out. You can know how it's going to impact you because right on their site, you pull up each of them. What's the SNAP income requirement? And they may say this household can only have $15,000 a year. And if you know you're going to make more than that, or if it's going to be more than that, that's going to impact you. And they won't lose it; they'll reduce it unto a certain amount, right? So it's going to benefit the household if you got your own spot, but it's a good thing you know how to budget because you're going to be good. You're going to be good. You're going to be all right. All right, so again, look into this because it impacted me growing up and it could impact you growing up, all right? And lastly, and you mentioned it earlier, there's this magical thing that people call a credit card. And I call it magical because many individuals see it as free money. If I swipe this thing, it doesn't hit my bank account. So this is awesome. I got free money, but it isn't free money. Banks do offer credit cards. A lot of places offer credit. You know what credit is? It's nothing bad, but credit, plain and frank, is a loan. It's a high percentage loan. When stores offer you credit, like those store cards, when they offer you credit cards, all they're offering you is an opportunity to take a loan at a high rate. So think about it this way. For every $100 that you spend on a credit card, they charge you $20. So remember how mad we were about the $5 for the ATM fee? This is 4 times that. So if you get a credit card and you use it, you're borrowing money from them. If you don't pay it back when they tell you to pay it back, they're okay with that. But they charge you something called an interest rate. And it's usually 15 to 20%. Talk to me. Say it again. No, credit card, specifically credit card. And don't confuse that with a debit card. Your bank's going to give you a debit card. That card, you use it at anywhere to buy something, and that comes out of your account. So you won't get in trouble as long as you don't spend more than what you have. A credit card is something separate, and that is a loan. That is a loan. So when you get a credit card, you're borrowing money from someone, and if you don't pay it back within a month, they charge you 15 to 20%. So see it as for every $100, they charge you $15 to $20. It's a lot of money. And then what tends to happen, which many people get in trouble, they forget, or they're like, oh, I can use this money for something else. They don't pay it. And this is where you hear something called a snowball effect. And what happens when you roll a snowball down a hill? It gets bigger and bigger. And that's what happens with debt when you don't realize it. So try to avoid them as much as possible. Some people find them as benefits. I don't think they're necessary. I use them for certain things. And I actually myself that budget all the time, I actually got in trouble recently. And I'll tell you that story in a second.
Won't that like mess up your credit score too?
How so? If you don't have a credit card? No.
So like if you got a credit card and then you forget to pay back,
Great point. Does everybody know what a credit score is? A credit score is how the world says they can trust you with their money. That's all it is. And a credit score goes from, I believe, 300 to 800. 300 being bad, 800 being really good.
So like, right at this current moment,
So many of you don't have credit. So you usually start around 500, which isn't great, but it's not your fault. Now, what a lot of banks and people say, get a credit card, it'll help your credit score. I don't recommend that. That's going to help your credit score. If you have a car note, any type. You know what's something else? If you have a family member that has some form of credit card that they use well, that they're not in trouble, don't just get it. They can put you on that credit card, and as they use it, it helps your credit score. I don't recommend you tell them to get one if they don't already have one. You can get into a lot of trouble with credits.
Some people don't let you like some other types of mess with theirs or like accidentally mess with theirs. Some people like be scared to like share credit cards.
And that's okay. Because again, remember, if you're on their credit card and you mess up, guess who also gets messed up? They do. So you mess up both credit scores at the same time. And a credit score matters when it's ready to buy a car, to buy a house. Because what that's going to say is, can I trust you to borrow my money? They're going to always lend it to you. But if they can't trust you, they're just going to charge you more to borrow it. Does that make sense? Right? Okay. One other thing before I get to you, there's something called a credit report. A credit report tells everything that's on your credit. I recommend that you all run one. You can actually find it for free. And what I'll do is I'll write the website over here for you. They're free. It's like annualcreditscore.com, but I'll write it down. Or I'll get somebody, and all you do is go in there. They'll ask you for some information, and you can print out a credit report. You can print out, there's 3 credit agencies. Don't worry about but there's 3 credit agencies. You can get one from each one every year. My recommendation is you get one every 4 months, one from a different one, and you'll be able to look at your credit report for free. Why do you want to do that? What was that? See how you're doing. Very much. Very good. Also, there's something called identity theft. There might be stuff on there that you don't even know. I've heard some terrible stories of family members using family members' information and buying stuff. And it's on there, and you don't even know. And if there's something on there that shouldn't be in there, you can fight it. You can tell them, I don't need that on there, and they'll fix it for you. Let's see here. All right, 25 minutes. Last story. I got myself into trouble recently, and it was all because of timing. So as it relates to credit cards, I use them for points. Again, I'm not recommending them, but I use them for points. I have them get paid automatically. I swipe, anything I swipe, every month it gets paid automatically. I don't have to think about it. But me and my family travel often, so we get points, so we can travel for free. Again, when you're ready for that, come talk to me and I'll guide you. Don't just go listening to anybody. I got you. So here's what happened. I got busy. I had a lot of projects going on. I wasn't staying up on my budget. For the first time in over 10 years, I couldn't pay my full credit card. Now I'm good. It wasn't that I didn't have the money. It's just timing. I wasn't able to transfer my savings to this, to that. How easily I have the money to pay for it. But because of timing, because I wasn't being on top of it, I messed up, and now I have to pay money to the credit agent, the credit report. And I didn't have to. That's why I tell you, you want to be very, very careful with debt and credit cards. I'm going to stop there. Ladies and gentlemen, you have been an amazing group, one of the best that I've taught. I wish you the best of luck. You're going to be awesome. You're going to be great. You know how to reach me if you have any further questions. And if the Say Yes wants to see me in the future, I'll be happy to be there for you. If you have any questions, let me know. If any other questions? Yes, sir. What was that? A bank? There are grants, but they're for specific things like nonprofit organizations. Totally different things. But you can get loans from banks for a bunch of different reasons. And when you're ready for that, we're going to have that conversation as well. Yes, sir.
Okay, so I know this is like.
Remember, all questions.
So I make around 200 a week, not even. Now, and that's around like 800 a month.
Okay.
Now, it seems by the end of the month, I don't have too much money. I have around like 100 left. I don't have too much money by the end of the month.
Sure.
So, what would you say would be like the best way to try and manage my spending?
So 2 things. For that question, you have an X amount of money, and you're finding that your net income is not where you want it to be. You only have 2 options. You have 2 options. First, you want to start off with your budget. You want to write it down. You want to see what it is. You want to know that. You have 2 options. Spend less, make more. It's the only 2 options you have. So as you go through your budget, you tighten that bad boy as good as you can, and at the same time, you figure out how you can make more. And those are your 2 options. Does that make sense? Does that help? All right. All right, what else we got? We good? Well, again, yes, sir. Come on, bring him on. I'm here.
What type of rewards can you expect from like credit cards?
So going back to credit cards, when you're ready, again, I do not recommend credit cards because honestly, when you look at the rewards, they don't. What is it? What did they say? The house, the risk doesn't outweigh it. The house always wins. It's a casino term. The house always wins. When it comes to credit cards, the risk does not outweigh the benefit. The only recommendation, if you're ever going to do a credit card, if you can afford to have that thing paid automatically, that you don't have to do it yourself. Because one miss and you're done. And those fees are insane. But you can find rewards, travel, clothing, all over the place. You just have to do your research to find out which one's best. All right, so remember, the only way you do it if you can afford to pay it automatically. You had another one. You good?
No, that's it.
Okay. Yes, sir.
You use credit cards to buy stocks?
To buy stocks? Never. Never. Why? Because a stock's going to give you a percentage to increase. Your credit card's going to charge you more than what you're making. You understand what that means? So say you make 5% on a stock, the credit card charges you 20%. You know, it doesn't make sense. All right.
And some bills, some companies, they won't let you use your credit card to pay a bill. You have to use your debit card.
Yeah. Yeah. And here's another thing.
They don't take it.
Credit cards will gas you. And I'm going to use that term loosely. They're going to try to convince you to use your credit card to pay your bills. And unless you can pay that credit card automatically, because here's the trick. What happens at the end of the month? You $600 in bills that's on your credit card. You could either pocket that $600 or pay your credit card. And then you're like, oh, I can pay it next month. And so many people make that mistake to say, I can use that $600 somewhere else. And that's where the snowball happens. Last recommendation for you, and I'll keep answering questions. Stay away from credit cards until you're ready to fully understand them. I messed up. I found myself paying, it was years ago, I had a credit card that was $500 max, and because of fees and because of overspending, I ended up paying $1,500. Jacked up my credit. So I had to pay $1,000 more because they charged me late fees, they charged me interest. So from $500, I ended up having to pay $1,500 and then rebuild my credit. I couldn't buy a car. Now apartments are looking at credits. Do you know that jobs are starting to look at your credit report? One mistake could jack you up. You had something, and then we'll go over there.
Do you play stocks?
Do I what?
Like, do you play the stock market?
I do. Yeah, I do. I'm okay. I'm doing okay. See, and bring me back. It's investment. We got to get going, stomach growling. We'll talk about investment and what that means. If you want to do anything, look up compound interest. And when they get me back, I'll teach you all about it. Have your money work for you. Have your money work for you. Compound interest and what that is. Have your money work for you. Stock market's a gamble. It really is. But if you do it right and you think about long term, you're good. Talk to me.
You gave us homework and you're not gonna be here tomorrow?
The homework I gave you is a long-term homework. I can't be here now. The homework I gave you is a long-term homework that you're going to be doing throughout the next couple weeks, because what you're doing is you're building a habit. Why? Because habits turn to actions, and those actions will cause change. Remember how I started this? The goal is to ask yourself, what is the change I want in your life? That budget is going to create a habit that's going to turn into action that's going to make change happen in your life.
See it as life work, not homework.
I like that, life work. Yes, sir. Compound interest? Just ask, what is compound interest? I got you. I'm going to come to you. I think it's right. I want to stop here. You know how to reach me. Again, ladies and gentlemen, it's been my absolute pleasure to serve you. I wish you the best. Wish you the best of luck. Take care. I'll be here for a little while in case you have any other questions.